and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting over episode 12 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So we're starting this episode off with the flashback back to the year 2000 when the second impact occurred, presumably. And things are pretty darn morbid already. What we have here is a scene where somebody is putting an injured Misato in an escape pod. And it's apparently her father, who very shortly dies of his injuries. We caught a brief glimpse of his hand, and it looked like his very flesh was dripping from it. There's also a shot of exposed bone in his forearm. We also have this visual of these two giant pillars of light emerging from the roiling sea. So, cutting back to the present, we see that scar on Misato's abdomen, and in all likelihood, that scar is from the second impact. So Kensuke and Toji come to visit Shinji to get out of a rainstorm. But this only seems to incense Asuka. Of course, the feeling is mutual. So Misato lets slip that Shinji and Asuka are going to have a harmonics test. Interestingly, Kensuke is the first to notice the rank insignia pinned to her collar, indicating that she's been promoted. So Kensuke explains to the uninitiated that Misato is now a major. I believe she was a captain before. So at the harmonics test, all three pilots are getting in on it. They're basically just sitting in the entry plugs in, I guess, a sea of LCL fluid and just vibing, I guess. Interestingly enough, Shinji seems to be doing the best out of the three of them based off that quick glimpse of the gauges. A lot of people are making statements about, boy, Shinji sure is born to be a pilot. So Ritsuko is quick to compliment Shinji. Asuka is also equally quick to say, well, my score is still better. But Ritsuko points out that it's the rate of improvement that Shinji's displaying that's really worthy of praise. So Shinji has a nice little one-on-one conversation here with Misato. And Misato gives some advice. Like, Shinji's trying to navigate the topic of Asuka, and Misato sort of brings up that part of the issue is that Shinji cares too much about what other people think. And that if he didn't care so much, then a lot of things that do bother him would cease to. So back at Misato's apartment, they're throwing a little party to celebrate her promotion. And they've invited the class representative, in addition to Toji, Kensuke, and the usual residents. Misato, interestingly enough, is also being attentive of Shinji, if only because he's not used to being around so many people. Though curiously, both Shinji and Misato seem to be in a sort of pensive mood. Misato's also being a little evasive about why exactly she joined NERV, if not because she enjoys it. So, despite being a little late to the party, Ritsuko and Kaji still show up to celebrate Misato's promotion. Interestingly enough, Commander Ikari and Commander Fuyutsuki are both leaving Japan at the same time, and due to the chain of command, that leaves Misato in charge. So, one could generously interpret this as an expression of trust in her ability, especially given her promotion. So, Gendo and Fuyutsuki have both traveled back to what used to be Antarctica and was the site of the second impact. So this is a part of that sort of secondary plot where Gendo's up to something. Of course, before anything really juicy is divulged, another angel is detected. And this one is very, very large. For now, it's just chilling out in orbit above the Earth. It sort of reminds me of like a child's drawing of a butterfly, because it's sort of got like those eye patterns on the wing-like appendages. But at the same time, not to be rude, but it looks like something I could draw, and I am certainly no artist. The colors are also very bright and vibrant. But meanwhile, the angel is dropping, I guess, AT field bubbles, and it's slowly correcting its aim, presumably until it drops something right on the geo front. Additionally, the angel is using its AT field to jam outbound communications. So, Misato is in charge, and there's no way for her to get orders from somebody higher up the food chain. So, in anticipation of things going wrong, Misato evacuates the surrounding area. And after this goes on, Ritsuko is sort of grilling her about the chance of success of her plan. Interestingly, this causes a little tension between them. Ritsuko's grilling her about the plan, and Misato's pulling rank. Ritsuko goes as far as to accuse her of being reckless just to get revenge on the angels. And that might be founded, especially considering her plan is to have the Evangelions catch the angel. So Misato's being very cavalier about everything. Interestingly, Misato gives them the option to refuse. So there's a bit of a culture clash here between the people who lived through the second impact and those that were born after it, as demonstrated by the carrot Misato is dangling in front of them, so to speak. So because of all the uncertainty in what's going on, they don't actually know where the angel is going to drop. So they're sort of taking a probabilistic approach to dispersing the Evangelions to catch it. Of course, given that they're taking this probabilistic approach, none of the pilots are particularly sanguine about their odds of doing this. So while riding in the elevator, the pilots have a brief conversation, and it seems like whatever progress they made in the previous episode, it's reverted somewhat, with Asuka needling at Rei and Shinji. So now the three pilots are in the Evangelions, and they are dispersed all around the concentric circles of the drop zone. So it looks like we're having another flashback here, where Misato is talking to Shinji. Misato talks about how her father was essentially married to his job, kind of like how Shinji's father is. So Misato, I guess, is feeling guilty and conflicted about the way she treated her father, and then he sacrificed himself to save her. So I guess that guilt is sort of what fueled her decision to join Nerve and get revenge on the Angels. And Shinji's sort of, I guess, reflecting on this and using it as a reason for him to be more steadfast in his resolution to get the job done. So now the angel is falling, and they can really only give an estimation about where the angel is based off of visual confirmation, and past a certain point, it's up to the pilots to decide. So basically, they all just have to run towards each other to the center of the circle and try and work together to catch the angel. I think that's a pretty cool scene right now, and it just sort of shows the scale of the Evangelions compared to everything, where Asuka in Unit 2 sort of hurdles over transmission lines. So Shinji's the first to make it to the drop zone, and with his AT field, he's tenuously holding the angel back. Like, he's managing to prevent it from impacting into the ground, but his feet are sinking through the ground under the weight. Fortunately, Rei and Asuka have managed to arrive, and with their help, they're able to kill the angel. And it just sort of flops to the ground like a tarp. It does explode, which I imagine isn't too healthy for the Evas or the surrounding area. But all told, I think it's safe to assume that this was a success. So, Gendo calls from Antarctica. And interestingly enough, despite the damage to Unit 1 and Misato's apology, he just sort of congratulates her on a job well done. And tellingly, he also praises Shinji. So I guess that was an instance of prepare for the worst but hope for the best. You know, they did stop the angel, but Misato was prepared to apologize for all the damage that got done to the Evas in the process. So rather than the steak dinner that Misato promised, the pilots compromise on some ramen instead to save Misato from breaking the bank and to allow Rei to join them because she doesn't eat meat. Shinji also sort of follows up on the conversation from earlier, giving a reason for why he pilots. And as it turns out, the praise from his father is the reason. Alright, that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one.